This is my house in London that I bought 3 years ago for £390,000. And the only way that me, with a 2-income household, could get onto the housing ladder was through a smart plan that I'll be sharing with you that allowed us to get 90,000 together for a deposit in 3 years. I'll also share with you how we crafted our own investment strategy that allowed us to save for a deposit using a crazy government scheme that literally gives you free money for your first home. It's like rich people feel when the Conservatives are in power. Let's dive in. This is the most important step and most people fail right here. So let's work out your budget for you right now. Write down the following things on a piece of paper. I'll write it down as well, what it was for me and Sumaya, my wife, at the age of 25. First, write down your household salary. For us at the time, it was £80,000. Second, write down your monthly savings, £2,000. Thirdly, write down your existing pot of savings. For us, that was £10,000. Next, write down the value of the house you would like to buy. For us, it was around £400,000. And then finally, 20% of that amount, that is the value of your house. So for us, obviously, 400,000 divided by 5 is £80,000. That's roughly the deposit we would need to go for. This calculation is absolutely vital because it tells you the time frame you are working with. This is how you work that out. You take your existing pot and then you add your monthly savings every single year, and then you work out how long you will need to save that for to get to your deposit amount. For us, look, this equation gave us roughly 3.3 years. Now that's a reasonable time frame, and it gives us the hope that we're on the right track and we don't need to take crazy risks. Now, if you're getting a time between 5 and 10 years, that's still pretty normal and doable. All it means is that you can afford to expand your investment strategy out a little bit more. More on that later. But look, if you're facing a time period of between 15 and 25 years, I think you then need to do a bit of introspection. Do I really need to buy such an expensive house, let's say in Fulham or Chelsea, Woodford Green, wherever you might be? Or could I buy somewhere more cheaper? These are tough questions with big implications on your lifestyle and your career. But if you've done your numbers and based on your current lifestyle, you're just not going to get on the housing ladder anytime soon, and you really want to, then mathematically just something has to change, right? Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine you're on a 40,000 salary with 3 kids. You're saving about £3,600 every year. And with an extra job, you reckon you could push it to about 5K. Now, your household salary is 40,000. Your monthly savings might be 300 a month. Your existing pot of savings is 0. And the value of the house you would like to buy is £400,000. And 20% of that amount is 80,000, like for our own house. On those numbers, it would take you 16 years to get to the deposit amount you need, and then your salary might not be enough to actually get you the mortgage multiple amount that you actually need to buy the house in the first place. But there is hope, ladies and gentlemen. With this one tweak, you could be in a house in 10 years. It's really simple. You need to subscribe to this channel. No, only joking. Let's say instead of London, you decide to look, for example, in Luton. Now, with your household salary is still 40,000, your monthly savings are still £300, your existing pot is still £0. The value of the house you would like to buy, however, is now £250,000, and so the deposit you need is now £50,000, considerably cheaper. Suddenly, instead of looking at 16 years, you're now looking at 10, and you will be able to pass the affordability test as well on your salary multiple that you would need for the finance. And if you switch that location to a place up north, you could be in a house of your own in less than 5 years. Of course, that does mean, you would have to move significantly to get there. There are potential options for most people in the UK today that can be affordable. You just need to look and figure out if you are going to take the change in lifestyle that it would take for you to get that house. Now, for us in our family, a lot of our friends in our circle were looking for slightly larger houses in slightly nicer areas, perhaps looking for flats in central London. What we realized was actually we wanted kids, and we had kids, and we wanted a garden. And for all of that to be possible in the budget that we had, was just not going to happen in a place other than East London, somewhere like Goodmayes, which is where we ultimately ended up. And ultimately, we're very happy with where we are. And if you look at it from a certain perspective though, that is a compromise, right? If you were to say to me, you have no restrictions on your budget, go and buy a house anywhere in London, it probably wouldn't be good maze. But the point I'm making is that you're not looking to always buy your dream house. Just look for a house that you can afford and then work from there. Look, the investment bit is the exciting bit, and it is coming up next, but first, a really important step, actually deciding the amount of money you are going to save every month for investment purposes, and both you and your spouse are agreed on that amount and the goal that you are investing for. Because without a plan, if you're anything like our household, there's always one large unexpected purchase that happens every month or two, and then there's the holidays to factor in as well. Before you know it, everything is derailed. You've used your deposit money to buy a vacuum cleaner from Dyson that keeps your house really clean, but it's a rented accommodation and you don't want to live there, but it is clean. Absolute disaster. Look, how we approached it was we figured out that we had about 2,500 left over every single month, and of that we were going to keep 500 in the current account just to build up a cash buffer, and then with the 2,000 we would create a standing order that automatically deducts that amount out of the account so it doesn't go into the spouse's hand that would spend the money, and then it is a separate bank account that's kept safe. This approach does 100% come with some sacrifices and a strength of will. That means little to no holidays for a few years. It means less takeaways. It means careful budgeting around groceries, around furniture, around second cars, not buying yourself those electric massage machines. All of that stuff you kind of have to hold off on so that you can buy yourself a house. Right, so you've done that now for a few months and you have some money piling up ready to invest. Where do you put it? Okay, so you recently got married, you're in the early years of saving for a deposit, you're still in that lovey-dovey period where you're buying yourself and each other expensive gifts. That's probably where you're going wrong. Don't do that. Start getting your spouse trained on cheaper gifts. So the first thing to bear in mind is time horizons. In our case, we were about 3 years off putting down a deposit. So I decided to be a bit more aggressive and put money into the stock market. The stock market, you see, is liquid. You can easily get in and out of it. And that typically comes with moderate risk, which I was willing to take. The reason why this worked is because stock market investing takes time to build up a profit, as markets often go up and down, and a lot of that is noise. But overall, the trend is upwards, but you need to give it time. What I didn't invest in at the time was something very illiquid, like a startup, for example, or something very risky, like cryptocurrency, for example. Startups can take 5 to 10 years to mature and are very hard to exit before that happens, which didn't work for me, of course, because I knew I wanted to buy a house in less than 6 years. And also, I didn't want to take on the risk of potentially losing all of my money through crypto, because at this point I had a decent amount and I didn't want to get shouted at by my wife when she found out that I'd put all of the deposit on a currency that was named after a corgi. You had literally one job. You don't look after the kids, you don't do the cleaning or the cooking or anything like that. Investment, that's all you had to do, and you decided to put it on dog coin. How much is my mahar again? Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't want that to happen and I didn't do it. And here I am today living the life. As we got closer to the target, we started switching out of stocks and shares and into cash. Roughly 18 months out, we reverted almost entirely to cash. This was because the goal was so near, we made a bit of profit on stocks, and it didn't make sense to put that money at risk any further. What we do wish we had started earlier though was the LISA. This is a government scheme where they make a 25% contribution to your savings up to £1,000 maximum every single year. Now the catch is that you must be saving for your first home. Me and my wife did get around 2 years worth of this government bonus, so we ended up with about £4,000 in total, which is amazing, but we could have gotten a lot more if we jumped on this scheme earlier. This would probably actually have been better for us than investing in the stock market at all. control. So the one thing that I was responsible for, I possibly messed up on that as well. So alhamdulillah, after 3 years, we had saved up around £90,000 because I had managed to convince my dad to lend us about £10,000 as well. And we got ourselves onto the housing ladder. We went through a dramatic and painful and very emotive process with Gatehouse Bank. There was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of hotly worded emails, but we got there in the end. I will do another video on that. I will explain to you how that entire process works, what you actually need to get eligible for an Islamic mortgage, what the options are today out there. So if you'd like to watch that, if you'd like us to prioritize that, let me know in the comments below and I'll bump that up the list. Now, before we go any further, ladies and gentlemen, I have been informed by some reliable data that the majority of you are not subscribed to this channel.
It's a crime, Ibrahim.
It is a moral crime in some ways, Kabzi. So there's a really easy way to fix that. You know what it is. If we were going to do the whole thing again, one change that has happened since our time is that property investing is now available in a much more liquid way without tying up tons of your cash and potentially losing the first time buyer's stamp duty relief that you would otherwise get. Get your helmets on. There is going to be a plug coming up. Of course, I am talking about investing in real estate via Curate Capital, because if you're investing via a fund, you can enter at a much lower amount, let's say £2,500, £5,000. So it makes life a lot easier to get you that property exposure. And the other key thing with the Curate real estate investments is that you can typically exit out of the investment pretty smoothly and usually within a matter of a few days or weeks, which is ideal if you need the money to buy yourself a house. We are also shortly going to be bringing some very interesting property development projects onto Curate Capital as well. These projects typically last about 18 to 36 months, which is ideal if you're in that early stage of saving for a home purchase, because you can actually afford to invest in slightly more illiquid investments and slightly more higher risk investments, but with the potential for higher returns as well. That's it for today, folks. Let us know what you thought about the video in the comments below. I will pin the comment that I most enjoy. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.